Welcome back. And as I promised, I've got a man who says that he has some really good ideas when it comes to innovation. Innovation in the sense of using ICT as a tool for better, more effective education. Now, many people, many young people, many parents living in sub-Saharan West Africa, living in Ghana, might want to have themselves or their children, depending on which way you're looking at it from, get access to education in the United States, in North America. And one of the reasons that is often cited for this aspiration is the superior technology, the better resources, better use of ICT, and so on and so forth. Well, my guest Michael Mino has got 25 years of experience in exactly that, using ICT, and he's a champion of the thinking of what's called the blended approach. And I suppose that means a gradual introduction of ICT into the learning environment. Good morning and welcome to Sunrise.
Good morning. Thank you. Pleasure to be here. I'm honored to be here.
It's nice to have you here. I was looking at this book that you gave me, The New Digital Age, and I see that it comes highly recommended by, some very serious people, Madeleine Albright, Henry Kissinger, Bill Clinton, Steve Jobs, General Hayden, former director of the CIA, Tony Blair, Michael Bloomberg. It mentions Africa in two places. I didn't have time to read the whole book, but I did look for Africa. And I saw that it's mentioned twice, once nominally and once speculatively. I said, is it going to be Asia or is it going to be Africa, the new frontier? Considering that there's been such a boom in ICT in Africa, and Ghana being no exception, mobile phones, internet, hugely popular. Yes. It's quite surprising that we're not using this as a tool for education, or perhaps for development. So I'm really curious as to your thoughts in that regard in general. Do you think Africa, sub-Saharan West Africa, Ghana, is or could be the new frontier for the new digital age?
Well, yeah, I do think so. I mean, just recently, the Rockefeller Foundation announced a $100 million initiative in Ghana, South Africa, Tunisia, and Egypt. And part of the reason they cited that was the age, the numbers of the population under the age of 30 in these countries.
Yes, and so a huge youth bulge.
You have a huge bulge of young people, and the young people are much more adept at embracing the emerging technology. They're much more adept at embracing the technology for socializing and for entertainment purposes. And so the challenge for educators is to figure out how can we use that technology and leverage it to engage them in education, engage them in learning. And part of that is understanding that learning is not going to take place exclusively in the schoolhouse in the future. That learning is going to be in a variety of environments. And that's the theme of the seminar we're presenting next Monday, is learning environments. There are different environments for learning today.
I just want to be clear on this. When you say learning, you are referring specifically to academic curriculum, school learning.
Well, if we talk about education, then we're talking specifically about school and the kind of the established education system. What we're talking about in the U.S. now is a culture of learning. And a culture of learning. A culture of learning extends beyond the school. The school is just one place where learning occurs, but it's not the exclusive place anymore. So, if we look back in America and we say 20 years ago, the schoolhouse and the library were the center of learning in the community. They had the most resources, they had the most books. Today, a student with access to the internet has beyond anything imaginable from 20 years ago.
The educational infrastructure in the United States that's available to students and their parents is by far superior in many ways to what you'd find here in Ghana. You've got libraries, you've got good buildings, you've got nice classrooms, well-lit classrooms. We don't have that here. Do you really think that ICT could be an equalizer, could help us leapfrog the infrastructural disadvantage?
Absolutely, because in America, not every city, not every town, not every student has access to the same thing. We have a lot of inequality in America, and I've worked over the past 20 years with populations of students in urban centers, some of which are considered high poverty areas where they don't have access to the same resources that we would have in higher income areas. So we don't have complete equality, and so we have been looking at how the technology can equalize opportunity, and what we call it in America is the achievement gap between the highest performing students, those students in the top 5% in Ghana who go on to tertiary education, and than the rest of the students who aren't achieving at that same level. And so we see that as the opportunity to address that achievement gap.
Okay, well, one of our viewers, Togbe Ghana, who's become a regular contributor in recent times, says he thinks you mean that young people should get online and learn, not get online and play. And he also thinks that ICT is the way forward. He says, please tell young people to learn how to get on it and use it to teach themselves. Now, you mentioned the learning culture just the other minute. In Ghana, we have a culture of a sort whereby students are not allowed to bring mobile phones, smartphones, laptops, iPads, any kind of e-tabs, even e-readers to school. In fact, in Ghana, a student can get away with a penknife, a pocket knife in their pocket, much easier than with a cell phone. I think that in America, it might be the other way around. You'd have metal detectors and all knives would be taken away, but you might get in with your laptop.
You might or you might not. It depends on the school and it depends on the teacher. We have teachers who have a box on their desk, and when the students come into the room, they have to place their mobile phone in the box.
Surprise.
Okay, so there are some who are struggling with the same challenge. But if we do that, what we are saying to the students is that device is only for socializing and for entertainment. We need to teach them that these devices can also be used for learning and for developing the skills that they need to succeed in the future. And that's, I think we need to understand that ICT is not just about learning a tool. ICT is changing the nature of our society. It's changing the nature of Ghana. I mean, I'm really amazed at the proliferation of mobile technology, the internet here. Every guest house I looked at had Wi-Fi available, right? So the technology is exploding here, and you need to teach the students that it's not just for entertainment. It's a way to develop skills that they can prosper with in the future.
I wish I could get Michael Mino's email address to ask him so many questions. Can I ask Sir Peter Brown Winzela? And Kamara Abdullah Tomik says, big up to all friends of Damongo Senior High School 2012 batch. Really miss you, especially the 4 AGs. This is your man, Atomic. Well, it's not rocket science or atomic science when it comes to statistics of relative poverty and prosperity in Ghana. Whereas in some schools in the United States, a teacher might put a box on the table and get lots of cell phones in it. There are schools in Ghana, many schools, that do not even have a box, possibly. There is no sanitation. We call them schools under trees. Right. And in those schools, it is very unlikely that the students would even have 2G cell phones, not to mention 3G ones. Have you considered that sort of operational environment when it comes to blended learning?
Yes, I've been thinking about that. I don't think it's an either-or approach. You can't say we're going to wait to bring in the ICT until you have a room, a building, a water, electricity. We need to address all of their needs. However, if we can address the issue of resources, under-resourced school, and if we can bring a device, so for instance, can we afford to bring 10,000 books to every school in Ghana if we have to print those books and ship them to every building? We can't. We don't have the money for that. But using a Google Nexus tablet for $199, we can put 10,000 books on that one tablet. We can put 10,000 books on a memory stick, 32 gigabyte memory stick. And then we can share that memory stick with students through a simple mobile device.
Sharing. Now, you've touched on a really interesting thing. And some research, baseline surveys, show that when it comes to sharing, it is much more difficult to share e-content than to share your traditional book on paper.
Well, it depends. What I'm going to be presenting next week at our seminar is I'm going to be presenting open licensed content designed specifically for sharing.
For sharing. The content, not the content, I'm talking about the technology.
Oh, so sharing the technology.
Sharing the technology. Right. So if I have a book and you say, could I borrow your book? Well, I'd be much more likely to give it to you very quickly than if you said to me, can I borrow your laptop or your smartphone or your reader?
Right. So, but again, we'd have to have copies of the books to share versus we can share copies. We can share electronic copies. And I think that's what we have to start doing. And the technology is developing to make that easier. We would have to rely on, in the past, let's say we'd have to rely on a CD a physical disc, CD, to share an ebook file or a music file, right? Or and if we go back, probably both of us can remember when we shared tapes, right?
Yes.
Okay, I don't see many people selling tapes in the street here anymore.
None.
Okay, in the old days we did that in America too. So then we went to discs, and now we're going to electronic files that could be shared on, a piece of memory chip the size of your fingernail, right? And not just one file, but 10,000 files. And I think that's part of the solution, is sharing those files. The other piece you mentioned about, it's the personalization of the technology. So yes, everyone is going to have their mobile phone. Everyone is going to have it.
By your estimation?
I think, in America we've been talking about this, and originally we were saying 5 years. Now I think we're saying 2 years. Now we're even saying less because, if you look at the iPad and the Google Nexus tablet, those devices are less than 3 years old. 5 years ago, we didn't even know they existed. We have no concept of what the iPad could be. Okay, the iPhone is 7 years old. All right, again, if we go back 7 years, we didn't have a concept for what the iPhone could be. So I think we're looking at a shorter time frame, 2 years to 5 years. And then the devices we have today, the high-speed, a nice HTC phone, a nice Google Nexus phone, a nice iPhone, the models we have today will be available at significantly lower cost because there'll be newer models that are faster and cheaper.
As a matter of fact, I did read about a $20 smartphone or something of the sort that's being developed in China. Kofi, about things that you're making a lot of contribution. He says this is the blend we need in Ghana's education. Dr. Ghana says he wishes that our education minister is watching. We need to use this knowledge. And Ajiman Isaac, puts it very bluntly. He says, I want to know when this ICT school will be established. Sends his greetings to Blessing Amwa, King Philo, Mensam Tuga. This is your boy, Holy Cross. Oh, holy moly, what a name. Okay. Talking about contributions and blending ICT into the learning environment, where do we start? If we were to think of this as a traditional blender or, like an apotoyewa sort of a blending dish, what would you put in first? And where would you start? At the preschool level, at the tertiary level? Where?